how Netflix ruined Korean dramas forever. AB explained. I mean, again, Asian boss, I guess. Yeah, whatever, AB. But again, I mean, I enjoy a Korean drama here and there, but I've never seen Squid Games because that concept I've seen so many times in anime. So for me, it wasn't unique. It wasn't this revolutionary, groundbreaking storytelling. It was literally someone took an anime and then adapted it. It was like Dead Man Wonderland. It was Batum. There's so many like this. What was crap, I already forgot the name of that one. But there are so many like it that for me, it was just like, oh, I've seen this already, even though I've never seen Squid Games. But yeah, Squid Games became incredibly popular. And
I think that's how a lot of Americans got introduced to Korean dramas.
Yeah, and I guess they've just started pumping out slop ever since then.
In 2009, there was a 38-year-old Korean man sitting in a tiny room in Seoul, staring at the laptop he had been writing a script on. He was totally broke, buried under loans, and he had to find a way to pay his rent and cover basic living costs. The laptop in front of him was pretty much the most valuable thing he owned at the time, and he realized he had no choice but to sell it just to pay his rent and survive. His life wasn't supposed to turn out like this, because he had taken all the right steps as a filmmaker. He studied communications at Seoul National University, then earned a master's degree in film production from the University of Southern California School of Cinematic Arts. One of the most
you don't go to an art school for a film degree. You don't, especially nowadays. What you do is you just start creating. You just start creating. I made the mistake of going for an arts degree in creative writing, in like editing, directing, things. Biggest mistake of my life. Biggest mistake of my life. You never go into an industry like that with a degree. That's how you've already failed.
Prestigious film schools in the world. But for some reason, this one script he had developed and became obsessed with just didn't resonate with any producers or investors, and it kept getting rejected. People in the industry kept telling him it was too dark, too strange, and too unrealistic to be ever made. So he sold his laptop, his main writing tool at the time, to make ends meet, and moved back in with his mother and grandmother, thinking it would be a temporary step back while he figured things out. But it didn't turn out to be so temporary. For roughly the next decade, that script sat on the sidelines, passed over and dismissed, while he kept believing in it enough to revisit and reshape it whenever he had the chance. His name was Dong-hyuk Hwang, and that script, first written in 2009 and rejected for almost a decade, would eventually be picked up by Netflix, and Squid Game would go on to become one of the most watched series in the platform's history, and help push Korean dramas onto the global stage. But here's the part almost no one talks about. How much...
Yeah, it's funny. He'd been I had seen those back in 2009, so he literally probably was watching the same kind of anime I was at the time.
Or maybe his script got leaked and somebody made an anime out of it.
There have been these types of animes even before 2009.
I don't know.
Even before
That's
2009.
not my genre. I don't watch that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I don't like survival anime or shows.
It's one of those things Future Diaries. That's what it was called. Future Diaries. And I think that's like
never watched it.
2003. I think you would enjoy it.
No.
Yeah, you would be the pink-haired girl in that. I'd be the poor little boy who just ends up being, well, kind of. Well, you would, spoiler, in Future Diaries, the pink-haired. So the wish, you basically get ultimate power at the end of it. And the girl would always win so that she could relive that event again with the boy she fell in love with, because oh my gosh, I'm getting all like disheartened and like kind of goosebumps and like, because her family was abusive. Like the first people she killed were her mother and father. And then she would go back in time to relive it, and then
Why would I like it?
Because you'd be the pink-haired girl.
Why?
She'd kill her mother and father and then herself, so that way she could go be with her boyfriend again and not share the one she loved with herself, basically.
The only survival shows I watch are cooking shows. And makeup shows.
That's a cooking show. But yeah, in Future Diaries is just so insane. And the fact that you realize that in order to gain the power, she had to kill the boy she loved. And the sad thing is like the boy understands that, I think, on the 5th rotation of the game, and he's willing to spend an eternity until he can meet her again. It was like, oh, that's so sweet. The boy was willing to make the bigger sacrifice than the crazy girl who just wanted the immediate attention of the guy that she fell in love with. Yeah, Still great. Still great. Future Diaries. Check it out. Check it out.
Huang, the creator of Squid Game, a series that reportedly generated close to $900 million in revenue for Netflix, actually made from the first season. It's not clear from the public record exactly how much, but what is clear is that he received essentially a one-time fixed fee as creator and director, with no royalties and no meaningful share of the IP he had been fighting for over 10
Future Diaries. Manga was created in 2007.
Okay.
Was in 2007.
Okay.
Well, probably even earlier. That's the volume 3 was in 2007. Volume 9 came out in 2009.
So he probably watched that anime and he got inspired by it.
He was probably reading the manga, watching the anime, and was inspired by it. That's the thing. It's just like there are things you can do which you can get influenced by. And yes, he did create something different, but I'd seen this genre multiple times.
10 years to get made. In interviews, he's been clear about this.
What inspired you to write your book?
Netflix gave him a shot when no one else would.
What do you think?
Lord of the Rings?
Lord of the Rings, Star Wars. I mean, I've always enjoyed fantasy and
well,
science
I knew
fiction.
you had the dragon in because you liked the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Smaug.
And it allowed him to make a living, which is something. But the life-changing upside went somewhere else. Huang has renegotiated with Netflix for the second and third seasons of Squid Game, and he's now in a far stronger financial position. But his original deal is still representative of the cracks in the glossy surface of the Korean drama miracle. From the outside, it looks like Korean dramas are entering a golden age and sliding into the vacuum left by Hollywood struggles. Shows like Crash Landing on You, Itaewon Class, and Goblin.
Oh, I've seen Itaewon Class. I've seen Goblin.
And Korean actors are now showing up everywhere from Cannes to the Emmys. But what if I told you that based on our research...
I have Crash Landing on to You in the list, but I haven't gotten to it because it's old Korean drama.
I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen any of those?
I haven't seen it. I've only seen a few.
The three that he mentioned, you haven't seen. The thing is, I didn't like the Goblin. I mean, it's an old guy. Very old guy. With a young school-going girl.
Yeah, that sounds weird.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And he's a goblin.
With people working inside the industry, the mood behind the scenes is very different. Budgets are ballooning up. Many production companies are struggling under mounting debt and cash flow problems, and writers, in many cases, are actually earning less now while working longer hours than they did.
Battle Royale and Death Race are in the same genre as Squid Games. Yes, you are absolutely right. But yeah, for some reason, I think it's the fact that because those are done in more of a darker tone, Squid Games literally is an anime brought to life. You have the colors, you've got the aesthetic. It's so bright and shiny. It looks happy, only for something entirely morbid to be happening. I think the complete parallel between like how it looked and what was happening is what got people so fascinated by it, because it looks like a children's playhouse, only for death and mayhem. That's the thing that made it work, I believe. Because it's literally like anime where you have all the pinks, the blues, the everything. And then so it's just literally anime brought to life.
A decade ago. So how does Korea keep pumping out some of the most addictive drama series on the planet while the people actually making them are barely hanging on?
The thing is that the quality is going
Quality's
down.
going down.
Like before, it was like they would the only one you'd see on Netflix or Amazon would be like the top charted, the top rated. The story would be good, the acting would be great, and you know, you'd actually feel something when you're watching the whole thing, and you just can't stop yourself from watching it. And when I first started Korean dramas, like I would binge watch them. Like I couldn't stop myself from watching those. And now it's like I'd see it, I'll be like, oh, this reminds me of that show. And I'd be like, oh, I know how it ends. And then I'd just stop watching it. And it annoys him so much that we start a show and we never finish it.
Okay, there have been cases where it's like, all right, she's all, oh, I love this show. I'm in the middle of it. We'll start it. We'll watch it. And then when we finish it, you can review it. And then we're watching it. We finally get to half of it. She finally finishes it. And then we're like, no, but I'm going to review it. I'm enjoying it. And then we get to like the last episode, the last 30 minutes, and we never finish it. It's like, welcome to Samdilri.
Samdilri?
Yeah, Samdilri.
But
30
I
minutes
haven't
left.
finished it too.
30 minutes left to the final episode.
Because it gets
Business
stupid
proposal.
by the end of it.
Business proposal. 1 episode left.
I liked how it started, but
and-
then they get together, and then there's the
course.
family
Of
disputes
course.
and everything. But they're gonna get together in the end. So it's like, what?
But I still want to see it.
Well, you didn't watch When Life Gives You Tangerines with me, so
Well, it's gonna be the same situation.
no, it's not.
Like
That's the show that I wanted to watch it with you, and you didn't want to watch it with me for some reason.
Yeah, even Sandman. I got the comic and went through it because I was planning on finishing the series. 30 minutes, we got to like the last episode and we just stopped. We
didn't finish Sandman?
No, we didn't. That's why I never reviewed it because I was gonna do I was gonna do like the comic book and the series, and then we stopped.
Well, there are lots of shows
Okay.
that we finished.
Okay, yeah, we finished Weak Hero. We finished
Mr. Queen?
Mr. Queen, Bon Appetit, Your Majesty.
See, food shows.
Yes, food shows. But yeah.
By the end of this video, you might not be so sure the so-called golden age of K-drama is actually sustainable, though there could be a
not.
way out.
Because it was paid for by Netflix. And what Netflix is going to do is as soon as Korea has been dried, like completely dried, they're going to move on to like purchasing
They're
India.
already no. They're already moving to Chinese.
Yeah.
See?
Well, they have a
there's
few Chinese.
so many new C dramas in there now, and I was so surprised because you rarely find those in there. But now, if you search, like if you open it, you see tons of C dramas, and I don't know, I just don't like them. Because they're mostly like fantasy based, like the one we're watching right now. It's amazing.
I like it.
But
I like it.
most of them are like mythical creatures. They're
They're
cultivation. What's it called? Energy cultivation or whatever.
I think it's cultivation. I think that's the right term.
Yeah, they're about that. They're about demon. They're about this god who got stuck here, and now I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me, I guess.
We want North Korean dramas now. I mean, if they even make entertainment,
Well, their version of dramas is his daughter was driving a tank, and then he took her to a shooting range and all that stuff. So I guess if those videos come out, that would be our...
Well, that's the thing is people are saying like his daughter is more vicious than even he is.
No, his sister, I think.
Oh,
is.
his sister?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, like that'd be crazy.
But now the debate is who's going to be the next one because he has his daughter now, and he's more in public with his daughter.
Yeah. Maybe.
So,
he might get, they both might be getting poisoned. It might be.
Yeah, probably.
We'll see.
Before we get to Netflix and Squid Game, we have to understand the secret formula of K-drama and what makes it so addictive, which might not be so secret if you're a K-drama fan because it often feels like it's always the same story.
Yes.
A successful and good-looking CEO falls for an ordinary girl. Nasty in-laws, childhood trauma, crazy twists in the final episodes that suddenly justify all the revenge. But one thing you can't argue with is the result. These shows are ridiculously easy to get hooked on. You finish one episode and they just make you check out the next. You say to yourself, hey, I'll just watch the beginning of the next episode and then go to sleep.
Then you're watching the
you watch
entire
the whole
thing.
series for 16 hours straight and you're wrecked at 4 a.m. Hey, I'm guilty of it. The idea of binge watching in Korea existed long before Netflix popularized the term. And
That
South
is
Korea
true.
has been quietly
Like in
built-
college, I was into South Indian movies, and like I would watch so many, and the ridiculous ones too, like the Raj Mahal series. They're like stupid horror movies and everything, and and my roommates they will watch the Korean dramas. Like The Descendant of the Sun, I think was the name of it. And they would like have it on a piracy site and they'd go and download the episodes and everything. I'm like, why are you so crazy about Asians? How do you even recognize who's who? And like they would be watching it. They'd be like, oh, it's such a great show. You should watch it. I haven't watched that show still, but yeah, but it's considered one of the greatest shows out there. But I haven't watched it just because they watched it, and I don't want to watch the same thing that they watched back in college.
I'm not really like the same way. It's like like my brothers always praised Game of Thrones, so I was like, you know what? Just out of spite, I'm not going to watch it. And then it comes to its final season. At 9 years, my brothers have been invested in it, and I'm like, you know what? it's got the last 3 episodes to come. I'll watch it. So I
Yeah.
binged the entire thing in a month, and I'm like, well, it wasn't great. And my brothers were completely wrecked and whining and complaining because, oh, they did this with this character. They did this with this
Oh,
character.
the dwarf guy.
Yeah, the imp. Because they spent 9 years invested in it. For me, I'm like, oh, it was just a month of time I was invested in the story. It
A
wasn't
lot of people
that
didn't like
important.
the ending too.
No. It was so stupid. So stupid.
building and perfecting one of the most effective storytelling machines in the world for decades. One thing I've noticed, as I'm sure hardcore K-drama fans have too, is that they seem to always stick with the 16-episode format. I'm not talking about the recent Netflix-style K-dramas, but the traditional broadcast K-dramas that defined the genre for years. I'll come back to this specific format shortly, but from our research, it didn't used to be that way. In the 1970s and 80s, Korean TV was dominated by long, never-ending family and countryside sagas. Shows like Country Diaries, which holds the title of the longest-running Korean drama of all time, ran for over 20 years and more than 1,000 episodes. The
There's
Country
so
Diaries
many
would just
Indian
follow
dramas
villagers
that
through
are
their
just
everyday joys and
completely
hardships,
going
the
on
series
and on
trained a
and
whole
on.
generation of
And
Korean
it
viewers who
it
lived
first
with
started
characters
with
over
the person, and then there's their kids, and then their kids, and then their kids, and then their kids.
I think there's
And it's
some
just-
Western shows like that too that just never end.
Oh, and
just
the
never
latest
end.
is
Soap operas.
a latest is about a housewife lady whose husband cheated on her, so he left her, and then she found another guy, and then something happened, and then she found another guy, and then something happened, and then she found another guy, and I think she's on guy number 6 now, and it's supposed to be a family drama about a self-sustaining woman or whatever, and how women go through, things and cheating partners and stuff like that. And it was inspirational and whatever for ladies, and now it's just like she's just cheating partners at this point.
Yeah, she's just trading.
Yeah.
She's just completely trading.
time and actually care about small emotional beats. Who shares a meal with whom? Who holds a grudge? Who swallows their pride? Then in the 1990s, the big 3 public broadcasters in South Korea, KBS, NBC, and SBS, started experimenting with a shorter, fixed-length miniseries in prime time. These usually aired twice a week, and some experimented with 20 and even 24 episodes. But viewers didn't seem to mind. A huge portion of the Korean population would tune in and be glued to their TVs, eagerly waiting for each new episode. Shows like First Love on KBS pulled ratings that peaked around the 65 to 66% range nationwide, numbers that are basically unimaginable today. For comparison, with cable, streaming platforms, and smartphones dividing everybody's attention today, most new dramas on Korean public TV channels are fighting over ratings in the low single digits, and hitting even 10% now feels like a once-in-a-while miracle. Anyway, putting that crazy 1990s popularity aside, 20-plus episode series were expensive to produce and tended to sag in the middle. The pace dragged, plots stretched just to fill airtime, and audiences start to lose interest. At the same time, costs were going up and competition was getting tougher. So those runs started shrinking gradually, and 16 episodes quietly emerged as the sweet spot, at least for weekday miniseries. Just long enough to make you deeply attached to the characters, just short enough to feel tight. But there was also an economic reason for the 16-episode format. Korean broadcasters wanted a structure that fit neatly into an 8-week advertising cycle, airing 2 episodes per week, so advertisers could lock in their buys with predictable ratings. This consistency meant broadcasters could pre-sale ad slots for the entire run before the first episode even aired. In other words, the format wasn't just a storytelling sweet spot, it was an economic machine designed to keep money flowing steadily. Here's the breakdown of the emotional arc, or rough blueprint, of most classic 16-episode K-dramas. The first 4 episodes set up the world and hit you with a core hook, the big what is this show really about moment, whether that's a shocking incident, a high-concept premise, or a memorable first encounter between the leads that makes you want to see these 2 people together or apart. The next 4 episodes are where you really start to live with the characters, sharing their routines, seeing their flaws, watching relationships deepen while new secrets quietly get planted. Episodes 9 to 12 twist the knife with betrayals, separations, and reveals at a point where you're already too emotionally invested to walk away.
Or misunderstandings. I think they introduced that one more recently, where it's not an actual betrayal, but it's more of a misunderstanding that happens that feels like a betrayal.
That's a C drama, not a
No.
K drama.
No, they have it in the K-dramas as well.
Which one?
Business Proposal.
That was a long time ago. That's not recent.
That is recent.
No, it's
That
been
is
like
recent.
what, 4 years since it released. It's,
4 years?
Yeah.
That's not a long time ago.
Well,
That's
with
not a
how
long
they're
time
like
ago.
pumping out the dramas right
with
now.
how much,
it's-
but yeah, misunderstandings, that has basically taken a part of it, where it's like, oh, you said this, the same Mr. Darcy sequence, the I didn't mean to say that type of thing, and then they get in a fight because he just wanted to pretend to be tough in front of his male
He just
friends.
made the wrong type of proposal.
Yes.
And the final 4 episodes are all about payoff and catharsis, confessions, justice, forgiveness, or at least some kind of emotional release. The emotional climax usually hits somewhere around episodes 14 or 15, with a major reveal or final big conflict.
Yeah, that's why I
And the
never
very last
completed.
episode
It's like,
usually
oh, it's
focuses
all
on tying up loose
resolved.
ends,
Yeah.
resolution, and aftermath. Of course, not every show follows this perfectly, but once you notice the pattern, it's kind of hard to unsee. And for viewers, this created an emotional full circle. If you invest in the story, it'll actually end. No endless seasons or 5-season cliffhangers. 16 episodes.
And that's the problem, because it never ended for me. It never ended. I was stuck on that last cliffhanger waiting for the end. And then it's like, oh, we're never going to watch it again. Let's stop. And then I'm just like, still, I bring up like a business proposal every time.
I don't
mean,
even remember
like,
the story of the business proposal
bringing
anymore.
up Lucifer, like I understand why you don't want to continue that, or like there are so many things that are just long running to begin with, but something that's like beginning, middle, end, like short series, it's like we can easily finish that. Oh no. Like in my head, I'm just like,
But it's
I
not
can't
even
just stop.
good. It's not even good.
I was enjoying it.
There's
I
so
was
many shows
enjoying
that
it.
are
I was
better,
enjoying
much
it.
better than that one.
Okay.
That
Yeah.
was it. So that's the secret episode format. But there's another layer to this, a kind of emotional code that's very specific to Korea. Korean dramas are built on two ideas that don't really have direct English equivalents. The first is a concept of jeong, a deep, sticky affection or emotional bond that forms slowly between people who share everyday life together. Co-workers who always eat at the same table, neighbors who bicker but show up with soup when somebody gets sick. It's not just romance, it's the feeling of, these are my people. The second is a concept called han, a kind of compressed sorrow and resentment that never fully goes away. Characters carry old wounds, a ruined family, a humiliation they cannot forget, a debt they didn't deserve. K-dramas stretch those feelings out. Instead of rushing to the twist, they make you live with the characters day after day until the apology, the confession, or the revenge finally explodes many episodes later. That's why the payoff feels so intense. The burden starts to feel like your burden. But the real secret weapon of K-dramas was the way they were made. Unlike in the US, where most episodes are written and shot before they air, many Korean dramas were going out on TV while they were still being filmed. Episode 1 and 2 would be on air while episodes 5 and 6 were shooting, and the finale was still being rewritten. That meant audience reaction could actually change the show. It wasn't real time in the social media sense, but if ratings dipped, everybody knew by the next morning. If viewers fell in love with a side character, that character's role could suddenly expand. If a subplot tanked, it might quietly disappear. The whole system...
It's funny seeing this and seeing the old date, and I'm like, I recognized him. I recognize him. I recognize him. Because you see them in things now, it's just like, oh my gosh. 8 to 16 format in India right now. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's going everywhere, but I think Korea was actually one of the ones to capitalize on it, because in the West, every series, it was expected to go on. You never did like a standalone. It was just never done. It was always like 24 episodes each year. Like Friends, like Smallville,
The Office,
like Supernatural, like The Office,
Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine, even. Yeah, like everything was done that way. It wasn't until the emergence of streaming platforms where that changed. And then that's why Korean dramas were so perfect to fit into the mold.
But then they only got a few episodes, but they got more seasons. So in the end, isn't it the same thing?
No, they didn't get more seasons.
Yeah, they did.
Nope.
Yeah.
No, they didn't, because even if you look at
Like even the
Stranger
crime
Things,
shows are just keep going and going and going.
well, crime shows have always been a thing, and
yeah,
they will never
Stranger
disappear.
Things. Look at Stranger Things.
Well, Stranger Things, if it was done as a series, look at not Smallville. That went on for 10 seasons.
That's what I'm saying. So many seasons.
Yeah, the Stranger Things? No, not Stranger Things. Supernatural. Supernatural went on for 14 seasons.
Yeah.
14 years.
Yeah.
And there's no breaks. You can't take a break between years.
No.
But on the streaming platform, you can do that. So it just made it so much easier for them to create. And
What was the werewolf one? Teen Wolves.
Teen Wolf, yeah, that
Yeah.
one as well. That one went on for a long period of
Vampire
time.
Diaries. The
Yep.
originals.
Yep, Buffy the
Ugh.
Vampire Slayer.
Oh,
All
it's
these,
not getting the second part. You
Yeah.
know that?
all these just continuously were just creating, and we get a bunch of filler episodes and a bunch of slop created in the amidst the whole thing. And then it goes to streaming, and South Korea had been making these perfect type of subgenres that fit perfectly into streaming for binge watching. Absolutely perfectly, because it was like 8 to 16 episodes.
Oh yeah, Suits. Suits too.
Oh yeah, Suits as
Dexter.
well. Dexter's one. But yeah, that's the thing. Then you have Dexter New Blood, which I think was just one season, and I think it was 12 episodes. 10 to 12 episodes. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., yeah, that didn't last long. How I Met Your Mother. Exactly.
Yeah,
All
there's
this
so
stuff,
many.
They just kept going for year after year after year after year after year, 12 episodes, it just constantly. And they had teams of writers. That's why I prefer the being able to sit down and watch something and enjoy something. That 70s show, of course. 2.5 Men. Never saw 2.5 Men, but yeah.
Oh,
It was a
Gossip
brutal feat
Girl,
that
too.
leads
Gossip
their
Girl.
writers and crews work insane hours, but the story
Days
kept
of Our
bending itself
Lives.
towards whatever made audiences feel the most. Terrible for sleep, great for engagement. By the early 2000s, this whale-oil storytelling machine was ready to leave Korea. The first big breakthrough came with Winter Sonata. It was just a melancholy love story with amnesia and lots of snow, but when it aired on NHK in Japan, middle-aged viewers fell so hard for it that they bought DVDs and soundtracks and even flew to South Korea to visit its filming location.
Why did he have to specify middle-aged? He had to specify middle-aged.
Including the now famous Lakeside Bench. It proved that the storytelling style could resonate far beyond Korea. The long emotional arcs, the moral clarity, the mix of everyday detail and melodrama. By the late 2000s, people weren't just talking about individual hit shows anymore. They were talking about the whole Korean wave itself. K-dramas, together with K-pop and Korean films, had become a full-blown export industry and a deliberate soft power tool for South Korea. So from the outside, it looked like everyone was winning. Broadcasters had hit shows they could sell abroad. Stars and a few famous writers became household names across Asia. Korea's image was transformed from a war-torn country into a sleek, modern culture.
Gangnam Style.
But under the hood, the money
Keep
told a
showing
very
them.
different story. The big 3 TV networks.
I don't know anything else he's done. I don't know anything
There are
else
plenty
he's
of
done.
songs, but that one's the famous one.
Yeah, that
I tried listening to the other ones he has done. I didn't really care for them.
I don't really even care for that one.
What do you mean?
I remember being in college and people were just playing it nonstop. It pissed me off, and I had a Korean roommate. It was just like, oh my gosh, what the heck? It was just an idiotic dance.
Like, people still play it.
It was just an idiotic dance, but I think that's what became famous. Because I mean, if it came out now, that dance, it probably is on Fortnite, but it would be on Fortnite. It'd be on Fortnite. It probably is on Fortnite, let's be honest.
And a few major distributors usually owned the rights to the shows because they were the ones commissioning and scheduling them. By the 2010s, independent production companies were being outsourced to make most of the Korean dramas you know, and they were generally paid a fixed production fee to deliver each series, enough to cover the budget plus a thin margin, but not a ticket to long-term profit. Here's what's interesting. Those production houses would often surrender long-term rights to the show as part of the deal in exchange for securing financing and a guaranteed fee paid out in stages during and right after production, rather than gambling on future back-end income they might never see. In that environment, the idea of revenue sharing or residuals for most creators barely existed as a norm. This meant writers had to be paid per episode, not per success. In a typical setup, the main writer would get a per episode script fee, and assistant or junior writers working under them would get a much smaller cut. Industry reporting before the Netflix boom
See
describes
how
assistants
people
earning
before
around
in
400,000
the
per episode.
old Korean shows, they all look different, but now they all look same.
Yeah, it's the beauty standard.
Yeah.
It's the beauty standard.
Yeah.
So you look at the shows. It takes me a while. It happens in like the Japanese as well,
And
Or
the Chinese.
and the Chinese,
Yeah.
where you're watching it. You have to be like 6 episodes in before you recognize what every
Like
character
the
is.
one that we're watching right now, I still don't know if the king looks exactly like the villain dude or because they all look the same.
Yeah, they all look the same, and that's the problem. Is like everyone's chasing this beauty trend, and they keep casting people who fit that beauty trend because people want to see people that are beautiful. I mean, that's just how it is. Everyone wants to see something beautiful. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I enjoy seeing attractive guys. I enjoy seeing like a hero being played by someone who looks like a hero. I want to see myself as the lead character because I'm an attractive man.
Why did you start laughing? I didn't even laugh.
I kept pushing that. It's like, no, I'm going too far with the gag.
I didn't laugh.
I'm going too far with the gag.
You started
yeah,
it.
because you think I'm attractive. You're
Yeah.
delusional. You're delusional.
Well-
but yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's just like I don't mind it. I think it should be. You should have heroic looking characters play heroic roles. I don't want to see a fat, overweight person
As
running-
Spider-Man.
Yeah, a Spider-Man playing like a hero role, playing like a main character. Why? Because nobody wants to identify with that fat, overweight person.
Well,
Even if you are, you don't want to.
I don't know if it's like in India or what place. There was a fat guy who dressed up as Spider-Man and he was running in the streets. It was funny.
That's just bad. That's just bad.
Roughly $300 at the time for grueling live shoot schedules. And grueling is not an exaggeration. The live shoot system routinely forced crews to survive on 2 or 3 hours of sleep, with writers rewriting scenes overnight and actors pushed through such punishing timetables that fainting or hospital visits were not uncommon. There were documented on-set accidents, production delays, and entire finales that visibly collapsed in quality because everyone involved was simply out of energy. Many had to get IV drips to fight exhaustion. Most writers and creatives were paid barely above minimum wage for brutal hours and endless nights, and only a tiny group of superstar writers and A-list actors had the power to negotiate big paychecks. Most importantly, almost nobody in the creative process, even the stars, actually owned the underlying intellectual property or IP that kept making money long after the show ended. Overseas licensing, reruns, almost all that IP money flowed back to the big broadcasters and a handful of major distributors, unless an independent production house was large enough to negotiate some revenue share. The vast majority were not, and they were often just thankful to be chosen for work at all. That was the unfortunate reality of the Korean drama industry, and by the early 2010s, this entire model was already cracking. Production companies were barely surviving. Writers were exhausted. The live shoot system created constant chaos. And broadcasters, despite owning all the IP, were tightening their budgets. Even when cable
Maybe
giants
Disney
like
should
TBN and
hire
JTBC entered the
Korean
market
writers.
and pushed production budgets higher, losing
Disney doesn't want good stories. They don't want
Because, Korean dramas are known for their romantic, deeply bonded, thoughtful stuff.
But
So I think it would benefit.
Korean shows have morals.
Yeah. And Disney needs morals.
That's the problem. They don't want morals. They don't want morals. Disney
But
doesn't
it's not
have
about
morals.
them, it's about people.
It's not about people. It's about the image they can show the world. It's about a message they can sell.
Because imagine if they had a Korean writer, they'd make so many more nicer stories, like, the old classics, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin.
Yeah,
they'll probably have.
That's not gonna happen. Like Disney's so much in. Like it's funny. My brother's like it has stocks in Disney, and I keep telling him to get rid of that, because that thing's gonna end up capsizing. It's gonna capsize. They're using a bunch of loopholes to try and show that they're making when they're not making money. The whole thing's sinking. The entire thing is sinking. You don't spend billions of dollars on franchises and only make $1 million in profit on movies that year and still remain afloat. The whole thing is just it's capsizing, and just people aren't aware of it. But yeah, Disney's gonna be sold to China. Every industry is gonna end up being sold to China. I think that's the whole point. They want to devalue what it is, so the the cost to buy it goes down, so that way a foreign nation can buy it. A foreign nation's gonna buy it and then start creating its own kind of messaging through it. But the truth is, as long as it's enjoyable, I don't care. As long as I can be entertained and it removes the annoying, nonsensical politics as its messaging, I don't care. If they have messaging be a part of the story, that's fine. If it's an element of the story, that's fine.
Yeah, like
But it
Hoppers,
shouldn't be the story itself.
right? I think that's the only decent Disney movie so far that we have seen.
What?
The Hoppers.
Oh, the Hoppers. Yeah. But the funny thing is the messaging was they're both idiots. The politician and
It's
the
the
annoying
same, yeah.
screeching Karen. They were both absolutely unrelatable. The lead actress of the series was absolutely annoying. I did not like her. It took forever to start because she was so obnoxious.
Yeah.
I was like, just skip all this nonsense. I don't care for her as a human being.
But based on all the recent stuff that they've been releasing, that one was like decent one out there.
Yeah. Disney wants some rides and toys to keep selling, so they will be rebooting already existing IPs again and again. Well, the thing is, the IPs that used to be an excuse to print money no longer make money. Marvel was an excuse to print money. Star Wars was an excuse to print money. Indiana Jones was an excuse to print money. So many things they spent billions of dollars to own no longer make anything. No longer make anything. And you can't mention Spider-Man. Spider-Man's owned by Sony. So all the profits go to Sony. Unless they have like a Disney-owned character in that film, like they did in the last one where it was Doctor Strange. It's owned by Disney. So they paid Disney a portion of the profits. But Disney's not making anything. They aren't making anything, and nobody cares. Well, unless they're those crazy, insane Disney girls, unless they're one of those, or Disney they thems.
Is
But
Harry Potter now Disney or it's still HBO?
it's HBO. It's HBO.
Is it gonna be with Disney?
I don't know. I thought it was going to be with Netflix. I thought it was going to be with Netflix, but
I don't think so.
the rumor is it's going to be bought up by Paramount.
Huh.
So we'll see. Which Paramount is also bankrupt. So
Yeah.
whoever ends up with it. But yeah, people just need to buy up. It's just going to end up being sold to a foreign nation, a foreign power. Because it's destroying its own franchises. And the thing is, even if a foreign power ends up buying up Disney, nobody's going to care to see a foreign power's interpretation of Star Wars, a foreign power's interpretation of Indiana Jones, a foreign power's interpretation of Marvel, because they no longer make any money.
What was the Prince of Persia? Was it also Disney?
That's a video game. I think it was.
No, which
I think it
production?
was Paramount.
It
No,
was-
WB, which is HBO.
Yeah,
Which
yeah,
is I guess Netflix or Paramount, whichever's purchasing it. But yeah, Disney's gonna be sold eventually. It doesn't make anything. It's a complete loss.
Well, it's
of profit.
already with Hulu now, right?
What
Disney Hulu thing.
Well, Disney and Hulu are the same.
Yeah.
Disney-
well, in
Disney's-
India, it's Geo.
Yeah.
With Geo.
Hotstar, yeah.
Yeah. Hotstar.
So Disney has been all of Bob Iger's whatever there. All he did was he spent billions of dollars buying up IPs, buying up. So ESPN is owned by Disney. Hulu is owned by Disney. Hotstar, Disney Plus, Star
Google
Wars.
should buy everything.
What?
Google.
Well, it's not Google. It's Disney. Disney buys that.
No. I'm saying Google should buy everything.
Well, yeah, Google. It's going to end up being, the world's going to end up being owned by Google, Amazon, and Facebook, I guess, as well. Google, Amazon, Facebook, China, and
Yeah.
India will be off on its own, creating its own unicorns all the time that sell to other nations.
censorship and experimented with more cinematic storytelling, the fundamental pay model for most writers and production crews barely changed. The
seen
broadcasters,
that guy.
public or cable, still own the rights, and the people actually creating the dramas still weren't seeing any meaningful upside when shows like Crash Landing on You or Reply 1988 became mega hits. In 2016, Hanbit Lee, a young assistant director at TVN, actually took his own life. He left a note exposing that, despite the prestige of the cable channel, the crew was being worked for 20 hours a day, abused, and fired if they didn't comply. His death revealed that the cool modern cable networks were running the same sweatshop labor practices as the old public broadcasters. So when a new global streaming player called Netflix came along, most of the Korean industry didn't really think much of it. Netflix was already disrupting DVDs and cable in the US, but in Korea, it looked like a harmless foreign buyer licensing a handful of Korean titles. Korea still had strong domestic ratings, powerful cable channels, and a well-oiled drama machine. No one imagined that Netflix would someday compete directly with Korean broadcasters themselves. At first, Netflix did play it safe by simply licensing existing Korean dramas to test the waters and see how international viewers responded. But as soon as it became clear that Korean storytelling translated globally and drove real engagement, the calculus completely changed. Why rent Korean content when you could commission it directly and own the IP outright?
World needs a superpower, a Sigma company. I don't think anyone really wants that. I don't think anyone really wants that. I mean,
Sigma company.
yeah, just someone who does basic.
Isn't Power Rangers Disney too?
I don't know. I never really cared for Power Rangers, if I'm honest. I never watched it growing up. I wasn't allowed to. I wasn't allowed to. Violence is bad. Violence is evil.
You guys watched that? What was the show?
The only time we watched good things was because Dad would sneak away and allow me and my brothers to watch things as he was driving us for a long drive. That's it. That's it. Because when we were growing up, my dad installed a TV in our car. We were like one of the first people with a TV in their car. Yeah, we were like the richest people around, even though we weren't rich, just because my dad was an electrician.
And it's in that
You guys had
context,
cooler
the creator of
technology.
Squid
Yep.
Game finally sold his strange survival story to Netflix that Korean broadcasters had rejected for years. By commissioning Squid Game, Netflix got to keep the IP for itself. And that decision didn't just launch a global hit, it rewired the economics of the Korean drama industry forever. In 2020, something happened that almost no one in the global media industry, or anyone else for that matter, thought was possible. The world went into lockdown due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and for the first time in modern history, the global content machine stopped, except in a few places around the world. And one of those places happened to be South Korea. That timing is important because Netflix had actually entered the Korean market before the pandemic. it launched service in Korea in 2016 and started licensing local Korean shows. At that point, Netflix was still just one more player in the K-drama ecosystem, annoying to some big Korean broadcasters,
Oh, that
exciting
was
to some
Money
Korean
Heist,
creators looking for opportunities,
right?
but not yet the center of gravity. But why was it annoying to the Korean broadcasters? Because Netflix was doing something that the broadcasters themselves had never been able to do, making Korean content instantly available to a global audience without waiting for regional licensing deals to close. When a drama aired on KBS or TVN, it might take months or even years to reach Japan, China, or Southeast Asia, if it ever got picked up at all. Netflix could drop a show simultaneously in 190 different countries. That meant Korean broadcasters were suddenly competing not just with each other for domestic ratings, but with a foreign platform that had deeper pockets, no legacy infrastructure cost, and a global distribution machine they just couldn't compete with.
Yeah, it was just a digital platform. It was just a digital platform. It's insane on how something, you just make it convenient and easy for people to access, and people will want to get it.
You keep waking up, Bolt.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bolt. My foot's on his bed. Yeah, that people will want to get it. That's just surprising. It's just like everyone had all these infrastructures. They'd have to print DVDs. They'd have to get licensing costs. When all Netflix had to do was just put it on an app and have it accessible on every single platform. It's like literally looking up a website and you can watch it there. But most people weren't going to go to a website to watch something. You have to make it as simple as possible. I mean, heck, I still remember they had those mail-in DVDs. Like you could place a loan on a DVD. You have like a week to watch it, send it back, select the next ones you want. Yeah, it was just, I never did that because Blockbuster was a thing at the time. But it was just like, and that turned into the digital landscape where, oh, it's now available online. Go to the email link and watch it here. And then within a few years, it was like, oh, just open the app on your phone. Just open the app on your TV because every TV is a smart TV.
I think in India, I think till pandemic, we still had those pen drives and everything, and we'd just swap with each other and be like, oh, this one has Naruto. Oh, this one has all the episodes of this thing and
or
this
just
thing.
or just get an old phone and find the stuff
and
in it.
just plug it in your phone and just be done with it. You know, when I was in college, there was this shop. It was a super shady shop, but it was like, buy earphones and everything, and they had computer, and they would sell one movie for 5 rupees, and every weekend me and my friend would be like, okay, so let's contribute and we'll have like 5 rupee each for like 4 people, and just we'll buy I think I think the rates were like 5 for each, but if you give 20 rupees you get 5 movies. So we were like, oh, profit. So every time we'd like do a contribution thing and would select which movies we want to buy, and then we'll go and get those at the phone that has the highest memory.
Yeah.
Because you know how phones are. Before we didn't have the pen drives and everything. And then we started getting pen drives, and then it became the whole business.
Yeah. Well, that wasn't before 2016. My wife was doing that up until 2020.
No. I was doing that 2016, 2017. And then we got to the piracy sites thing happened. So we'd have one girl who would go to like a cafe or something with high-speed internet, and we'll give her her list of things what we want to watch, and then she'll go and she'll download everything, and then it'll be like transferred to the entire hostel or entire college.
Well, Rashad Dev is basically saying after that cheap internet made content accessible for all.
Yeah.
So then you would just watch it on your phone. You didn't have to do all that downloading crap.
Because I remember I watched Twilight, Harry Potter, Pride and Prejudice, all those like good movies, like, you know.
Yeah. Like, well,
Piracy.
Again, mother still watches those pirated stuff. I mean, she's watching pirated just because she wants to see it.
Well, she watched it on YouTube. She didn't go to a site or anything.
Yeah. It's pirated on YouTube.
Yeah, somebody uploaded there, and she was like, oh, I'm watching this today.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, I can't exit out of the app because if you do that, it's lost forever.
Yeah, it's blocked.
So she's like, oh, you disconnect the call because I can't, do things because if I close this window, I might never get it back. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, did she enjoy the propaganda in it?
No.
She didn't like the propaganda.
She likes it, but, because I told her, oh, there's a lot of swearing in it. I was surprised, and she's like, well, in old days, people used to swear like that all the time.
But that isn't that old.
And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, oh, a lot of those curse words that people no longer use because they're getting more civilized. She's like, oh, I recognize so many of those curse words. I'm like, okay.
Okay, I guess it was more accurate than I thought.
Yeah.
More accurate than I thought. Okay, whatever.
My mother's, a bit like before the partition, my mother's grandmother's land is now like in present Pakistan, but
Oh, okay.
yeah, so her grandmother and then her mother had those kind of tones, and like her mother's family had that kind of like, you know, conversations.
Like to speak like that. Like to speak like that.
So she grew up with all that stuff, and I'm like, a lot of cursing, and she's like, no, it's actually normal. I'm like,
Yeah,
okay.
just a bit of cursing, not that much.
Because I told her, like, every time there would be a curse word, people would start like hooting and everything, and they'd be so happy. And I was like, yeah,
because there's cursing.
Yeah, she's like, oh, I know all those words. I'm like, okay.
The downside of these types of apps is you don't own the content. With physical media, you can own it for life. Exactly. That is the downside. You're paying to rent. It's a rent-based system. That's why it's like they have the watch before it leaves, newly arrived type of content, because it's just there for a short period of time.
Oh, I also watch Fast and Furious.
At first, the relationship was almost symbiotic. Netflix was able to license all the Korean dramas for a fraction of what they would cost today. Shows that had already aired on Korean TV and recouped most of their costs through domestic ads and sponsorships. Korean broadcasters were cool because they got easy extra revenue from a foreign buyer, and Netflix got a library of proven content to fill out its Asian catalog. Actually, I should make it clear that Korean broadcasters were more than happy to license their drama to anyone at that point, because the timing couldn't have been worse. In 2016, China, Korea's single largest overseas buyer of K-dramas, effectively banned most Korean entertainment after the THAAD missile dispute. THAAD is a US anti-missile defense system that Korea agreed to host, and China saw it as a national security threat. Practically overnight, Korean dramas, concerts, celebrities, and media disappeared from Chinese platforms, and Korean broadcasters lost hundreds of millions of dollars worth of potential licensing revenue. Netflix suddenly became one of the few global buyers left willing to pay real money for Korean content. But as those licensed shows started driving serious global engagement, Korean broadcasters and distributors realized they had been underpricing their content. They started raising licensing fees and playing hardballs in negotiations, trying to capture most of the values Netflix was clearly extracting from their libraries. So Netflix looked at the dynamic and made a strategic call. They knew that Korean broadcasters would keep demanding higher licensing fees, and it would eat into their margins and budgets. Not to mention, they'll be held hostage to a content library that belonged to someone else. That's when Netflix changed its model from licensing partner to commissioning platform for Korean content. Instead of buying finished shows, Netflix started greenlighting originals, fully financed, branded as Netflix originals, with IP locked up from day one.
Just like what they do with Squid Games, you buy it up and you prove that it's yours now. Like most of Netflix's catalog that people absolutely love is owned by Netflix. It is owned by Netflix. And that's the thing. It makes it so they can cancel the shows that don't make a profit. I know there are a few shows that they canceled because nobody was watching them. But that's just how it should work. They want to make money. They want to make money. And you want to create things that people want to watch in order to, guess what? Make money. Keep people subscribed longer. So that way, a new series comes out, which is why I think they're releasing the entire series in 1 month is a mistake.
Which one?
Like every series, they always release the entire thing in 1 month. Like look at One Piece. The entire thing was released in 1 month. So people who just are interested in that one thing, well, they'll purchase it, watch the entire thing in 1 month, and then cancel it before the next month.
Well, it's One Piece, so maybe they did it different. But a lot of Korean shows, especially, no, they still release over a period of time.
Well, the Korean shows, that's because they're still in the process of being made. Because that's just how it's designed to be done. Just like with the Chinese drama we're watching, it's designed that way. So it's being released as it's being released in China. It's being released on Netflix as it's being released in Korea. Because that's the agreement they have. Like, look at Stranger Things. They released it as part 1 and part 2. That's it. One Piece, all one season. Like, they'll either do a part 1, part 2, or they do everything all at once. They've never had that week for week kind of thing. Because everyone got so used to watching the entire thing in one go. They don't want to wait. They built in that impatience. They absolutely built in that impatience.
I didn't know this before I looked into it, but Kingdom, the zombie historical thriller that dropped in 2019, was actually the proof of concept for Netflix. a big budget Korean drama that was entirely financed by and belonged to Netflix globally and could never be sold to a competitor. For Korean broadcasters and distributors, it was the beginning of losing control over their own industry's future. When COVID shut down productions in North America and Europe, Netflix suddenly needed fresh, bingeable content that could travel globally. Remember, by this point, they had already validated their thesis that Korean originals would work. You see, South Korea had managed to keep sets operating under strict health and safety protocols. Mandatory testing, contact tracing, control bubbles, and quarantine systems that allowed production to continue at a reduced capacity. Here was an advanced production hub with professional crews, disciplined live shoot systems, and a proven track record of exporting stories. In other words, exactly the kind of machine you would want to feed a global streaming giant when the rest of the world was stuck at home desperate for content. And boy, did Netflix have the cash to make it happen. Before Netflix, a typical primetime Korean drama might cost somewhere around $3 to $5 million to produce for a full 16-episode series. That budget covered everything: cast, crew, locations, and post-production. Broadcasters would finance most of it through a mix of advertising commitments and their own capital. And producers would deliver the show for a fixed fee that left them with maybe...
I do gotta say, I do like how they do product placements in the Korean dramas. Like, they'll just pull out the lip gloss, like the actress, and then she'll be applying lip gloss where the label is clearly showing towards the camera.
And the mirror and the what's it called? Her dressing table will have all the other products from the same company.
Everything. Just like, I gotta say, I like that. It reminds me of the one scene in Smallville where Clark Kent has finally joined the football team, and then he grabs his jersey from the hanger. And right behind the jersey is like a little closet space. And then the camera hangs there as the coat hanger is dangling. And it's just Old Spice. Old Spice deodorant. It is just a smack your head type of thing. And I'm like, all right, this episode was brought to you by type of thing. Which is, I do got to say, I like how they do it in Korean dramas, though, because it just seems so...
yeah, because the guy would be guy would be chasing somebody and he's like sweating and everything, and then he would like go in the corner. He'd be like, "Oh, my mouth is so dry," and then he would pull out the chapstick and then he would start applying.
Yeah. Apply
like,
the
okay.
chopstick, yeah, or chapstick. Apply the chapstick. I said chopstick. Oh my gosh, yeah, but a lot of that kind of happens. Netflix.
I think even the drinks that they drink in the
yes, it is.
Yeah.
Just like how so they'll go to like stores and then like the dispensers or things like that will all have brands. Well, those brands paid to be there. Like, he showed an image where they were in a restaurant and it had just Subway in the background. They paid to have their name prevalent there.
Yeah,
like,
and there was one show. The girl would always drink from one company. She's like, "Oh, I love this company."
Yeah, I always drink this. I always drink Vosh. I always drink Vosh water. I always drink Vosh. I've never tried Vosh water. It's water. Come on, it's water. But yeah, they do that all the freaking time. But I feel like it's always done tastefully in like Korean dramas. And then on the other hand, you have that Disney, that episode that's brought to you by McDonald's from Loki season 2. The entire episode takes place in McDonald's. They're literally sitting there eating, talking to each other about the meal they're eating. The female Loki works at McDonald's. The entire thing was just like, what the heck is going on here?
Be a 10 to 50% margin if they managed costs well. As Netflix and later other global and domestic platforms began commissioning originals, they weren't bound by traditional broadcast scheduling slots or the 2 episodes per week rhythm. They could drop entire seasons at once, and they cared more about total watch time and engagement than fitting neatly into a broadcaster's grid. So episode counts start to vary. Some Netflix originals shrank to 12, 10, even 8 episodes, depending on the story and the deal. By the early 2020s, the standard 16-episode format was no longer automatic. It had become just one option among many. Netflix also changed the math on budgets entirely. They started commissioning Korean originals with budgets in the $20 to $30 million range, sometimes higher, meaning a single Netflix series could cost 10 times more than a typical 16-episode broadcast drama. Netflix also paid 100 to 110% of production costs.
They're basically buying out all of Korea so Korea can't create content. That's literally what they're doing because they have the bigger wallet. They could easily pay more, and then guess what? Everyone wants to work for Netflix. Create content that they can sell for Netflix, that the big platforms in Korea would no longer exist. I mean, that's do they get more money? Yeah, but the products they create are not theirs.
Upfront, sometimes more, which meant producers no longer had to scramble for co-financing or beg advertisers to commit early. The money came in milestone payments during production and right after delivery, not years later when overseas licensing finally closed. Meanwhile, Korea's strict advertising regulations capped how much domestic broadcasters could earn per episode, regardless of how big a hit the show became. So there was simply no mechanism for Korean broadcasters to raise more money to compete with Netflix's budgets, since Netflix faced none of those restrictions. For Korean producers and creators used to operating on razor-thin margins, this felt transformative. Here's the math. If Netflix commissions a show with a $25 million budget and the production company negotiates a 12% producer fee on top of that budget, that's an additional $3 million in revenue just for delivering the show. And if you could line up multiple Netflix projects back to back, you could finally start building a real business instead of just surviving project to project. At first, Korean producers were blown away by the offers, but the more they delivered successful projects and built credibility, the more they realized they could pitch bigger, more ambitious concepts. And usually, Netflix would greenlight them, especially if the project involved star talent or high production values. Why? Because Netflix knew it could make far more money by owning the IP and everything that came with it. Global streaming rights, remake potential, merchandise, spin-offs, format sales, basically any revenue stream that comes from being the IP owner. And once you understand that, you can see how this leads to hyperinflation of budgets. They exploded. Another way Korean creators discovered they could get paid more under Netflix was by shrinking the episode count even further. Because writing and directing fees are calculated on a per episode basis, you suddenly started seeing Korean Netflix originals with 6 or 8 episodes. It was basically economic optimization. And as budgets grew, talent fees shot up with them. Top Korean actors who might have earned around $50,000 per episode in the broadcast era began commanding $200,000 to $300,000 per episode, sometimes even more for the biggest names. Star writers like Eun-soo Kim, who had been earning around $20,000 per episode in the years leading up to Descendants of the Sun, eventually crossed 100 million won or roughly $80,000 mark per episode after mega hits like Goblin.
I do got to say, when it comes to like the writers and creators, they do need to receive enough of a livable wage, something because they're creating content, especially if they're creating content that people absolutely love to sit down and watch. This is the way I perceive it. If you are creating something that people can watch to escape their reality and just feel good and have a good time, the people creating it are worth being paid enough to, guess what, to where they can go off and turn off their brains, have a good time, and do something, because they're giving people that type of feeling. They deserve to be paid in consort so they can do something that will give them that kind of relief. That's just how I believe. That's why I think writers and directors and cinematographers and grips and electricians, everyone basically in the film industry, if something is absolutely spectacular, they should get a bump on the licensing fee. Of course, when it comes to like when it drops on like Netflix, well, who's to know how many people are actually watching? That's where it becomes more of a issue, because how do you track that? How do you track that if Netflix doesn't allow anyone to see exactly how many people are watching, or only certain nations have access to see what their nation is consuming, instead of, oh, what so Korea can probably see what Korea is watching on Netflix, but they can't see what America is watching on Netflix. They can't see what Japan is watching on Netflix. They can, so they don't know exactly how far their reach actually goes with their shows that they create. Like the ones created in the US, only Netflix knows. Only Netflix knows, but they're not gonna breach the what is it, the personal information of something that affects, because letting the numbers of the US know how many people in the US watch Squid Games to Korea, I think that would be too much of a stretch for them, because it's like, well, you have no right to know what the US is consuming. You know, that kind of weird nonsense. There's always a way around it, especially when it comes to like borders, when it comes to different nations. So they could easily just not let people know. So they need to be paid a lot more upfront, and since they no longer have the licensing charge after the fact.
And Mr. Sunshine. So on the surface, the drama industry appeared to be making a comeback. Bigger budgets, more international attention, more money flowing through production companies than ever before. But for Korean producers, this new scale created a different kind of trap. Not necessarily worse
paid
than
content
before,
catalog
but more
scheme. I don't know.
and more dependent. Here's why. Since they never get to share the upside and just get a fixed fee, the only way for Korean producers to earn more money was to take on bigger projects with bigger budgets, so that their 10 to 15% producer fee would be larger in absolute terms. And look, it's only natural, right? When you see Netflix making $900 million,
well, Netflix does have to worry about having something worth watching. You do got to keep that in mind. I mean, look at Disney Plus. Who pays for Disney Plus? Do they make anything worth watching? No. No, they don't. Some people who have kids probably have Disney Plus. but it's a very small. But those people who have Disney Plus have Netflix, and more people have Netflix than have Disney Plus or HBO Max, or because it was the first, and it still has the biggest catalog, and with stuff, of course, that are worth watching. Nobody goes to Disney Plus to watch whatever's on there because there's not really anything to watch on there. Nobody goes to Hulu to watch anything on there because there really isn't anything on there. That's just what it is. So you have to always be aware that there has to be something worth consuming. There has to be original content worth consuming. There has to be. Like, nobody got Paramount Plus because the only thing there was Halo, and Halo was just this it was just trash. It was just trash. Yep, Disney Plus is still here. So is Hulu. They're supposed to merge like it is in India, where it's Disney plus Hotstar, but I'm still waiting to see that.
Fee from 2019, your expectations go up. You start thinking, why am I taking all the financial risk if I'm not getting a share of the upside? So producers push for bigger budgets, not out of greed, but out of a simple need to earn enough to justify the risk they were taking. Their logic pushed the entire industry into an arms race. Every new drama had to be more ambitious, more expensive, more star-studded than the last, just to justify the economics. This is not building a sustainable business. You're running faster and faster just to stay in the same place. But here is the ultimate catch. Once you're betting $25 to $30 million on a single project, you cannot afford to take creative risks. You need to guarantee success, or at least feel like you're guaranteeing it, because if you fail, you might not get greenlit for another high-budget project from Netflix anytime soon. Sure, there are now other Netflix competitors in Korea that you can also pitch to, like Amazon Prime and Disney Plus, not to mention domestic Korean platforms like Coupang Play. But here's the thing, they're all going after the same pool of top-tier Korean talent and are just as unforgiving when it comes to failures, because they're in a bloody competition. So what do Korean producers pitch? Safe bets, proven themes, A-list actors with track records, ideally an IP that already has a fan base. That's why webtoon adaptations exploded in the Netflix era. They came in with built-in audiences and reduced the perceived risk of a massive budget. Instead of developing original and creative scripts like Squid Game that put Korean drama on the global map, the industry increasingly chases proven formulas. The paradox is rather ironic, isn't it? You would think bigger budgets should theoretically allow for more creative risk and ambition, but the current Netflix model, where Korean producers bear the financial risk but get no upside,
That's the same issue that like all massive industries fell into. They pay a ton of money. They want to see, that's why we get reboots and remakes. Nobody wants to make anything original because the risk of making something original is far too great. Nobody wants to spend so much money on something that's not original.
that logic on its head. Even as everyone started getting
on something that's original that's going to fail.
Well, almost everyone, because before we forget, the average junior writer or assistant writer is still getting paid barely above minimum wage, typically around $300 to $1,200 per episode. Maybe the real problem isn't just the unfair nature of the deal. Maybe it's that the money itself got too big. When you're gambling on that much on a single show, the risk calculus changes for the worse, regardless of whether you stand to earn a share of success. Either way, here is where we are. The Netflix trap means more money leads to less experimentation, more sequels, more adaptations, more predictable formulas. Original storytelling becomes the riskiest investment you can make, which is exactly the opposite of what an industry supposedly in its golden age should be doing. Unfortunately, the soul of Korean drama storytelling is already beginning to erode, and the forces accelerating this erosion are far more disruptive than anything Netflix introduced. So it would appear that Netflix now completely
Disney, Hulu, HBO, Peacock, and some CBS. Well, a lot of those are owned by Disney. Not the HBO or Peacock, but I know CBS, ESPN, and they're all on. They're all owned by Disney.
Dominates Korea's drama industry with its virtually unlimited budget, and Korean content has never been more visible or more celebrated worldwide. Yet beneath that global success, the industry itself is quietly collapsing from within. And hopefully, you now have a much clearer sense of why. But to make matters worse, something else is happening, completely independent of the Netflix trap. Because what exploded during the pandemic wasn't just Netflix originals, it was TikTok, short-form video, microdramas. At first, the idea of taking a traditional one-hour drama and chopping it into 60-second vertical microdramas for smartphones seemed absurd. I remember thinking, would people really watch stories told in a bite-sized vertical episodes? The Korean drama industry probably had the exact same reaction. But TikTok's super powerful algorithm rewired the viewing behavior of an entire generation. South Korea now has one of the highest short-form video consumption rates in the world. Gen Z Koreans doom scroll through TikTok, Instagram Reels, and YouTube Shorts for hours, and many openly admit that long-form dramas feel too slow unless you're watching at 1.5x speed. That's why the appetite for compressed, vertical storytelling exploded so suddenly, and why Korean producers were completely blindsided by it. Algorithms became better than human writers at predicting what you want to watch next, creating a constant dopamine loop that traditional storytelling.
Yeah, I can't go through the, like, I've tried the doom scrolling, like I'll start it every now and then I just get stuck on like, why I don't care about this, and then I just close it. And then I try it again, and it's like, okay. And then I just start seeing a bunch of nonsense I don't care for. Of course, I've never been on TikTok, but like shorts or Instagram or whatever. I've just realized I just don't have that kind of mindset to turn off my brain and just watch funny little videos. I just don't have that. I like to watch long form content and not so much learn something, but just feel like I like spend my time on something that feels like it's worth value. Doing this doesn't feel like it's worth value. And then the funny thing is, I'll sit here for an hour watching one video, but the people who sit watching thousands of videos doom scrolling, they probably spent more time doom scrolling, not knowing a single thing that they're watching than I did watching one video. And it's like, oh, I know what I saw. I remember.
Cannot compete with. Meanwhile, something everyone had been waiting for finally happened. The pandemic stopped and people could go outside again. So they traveled, they socialized, and they stopped spending entire weekends binge watching 10 hours of Netflix. As a result, global streaming viewership and subscriber growth slowed everywhere, not just in Korea, and platforms like Netflix began cutting budgets. Fewer projects were approved, and episode counts shrank. Suddenly, Korea's entire production model became even more unsustainable, because during the pandemic boom, Korean entertainment companies had massively overexpended. They assumed that demand for scripted content would just keep on climbing forever. So they bought US production studios for billions, invested in new facilities, and hired more writers, more crews, and more everything.
I need to get on X. I haven't been on there that often.
Came crashing down. Korean studios were left with enormous debt, shrinking margins, and far fewer long-form commissions to keep the machine running. And that led to a painful realization. If the long-form market is shrinking and Netflix owns the upside anyway, where does a Korean producer actually make money? That's when the industry started looking towards China. Because just as long-form economics were collapsing, China's short-form microdrama ecosystem was exploding into a multi-billion-dollar gold rush. Chinese microdramas, often called duanju, which roughly translates to short dramas or vertical dramas, are typically 30 to 90 seconds per episode, packaged into a series of 50 to 100 episodes, and they use a classic freemium model. The first handful of episodes are free, and after that, viewers pay small amounts to unlock each subsequent episode through token or point systems. A few Chinese yuan, or roughly 30 to 50 cents, for multiple unlocks, bringing the cost per episode down to just a few cents. According to one report, as of June 2024, the user base for microdramas in China reached over 570 million people, and individual hit series can generate millions of dollars in revenue despite production budgets that are a fraction of traditional TV. It works because paying a few cents to unlock the next episode feels easier than waiting. Add in advertising, VIP bundles, and platform upsells on top of the micropayments, and you get a system that generates higher average revenue per user than traditional subscription streaming. Their only goal is to maximize completion rate and trigger the next unlock, not to create art. By 2024, the microdrama industry had already surpassed the entire Chinese film industry in annual revenue, pulling in roughly...
I'm not gonna lie, I had no clue that this was even a subgenre. I had no clue. I had no idea this was a subgenre. I had no clue. This is how employed I am. I had no clue this was a thing. I kept thinking that sounds ridiculous, but the fact that it makes it makes sense that people just want to scroll to see the next thing. They're literally paying per. That's like watching an episode, and every minute you're watching, you have to pay like a quarter. You have to pay, give me 20 rupees every minute I'm live. I mean, it sounds nice. It sounds nice. And then if I have sponsorships on top of that, and then there is the original ad revenue from like ads and things, you add all that on top, that's a ridiculous amount of money. A ridiculous amount of money. It's just insane. X usually summarizes whole huge daily news vids on YouTube in an hour. I mean, I didn't know that, but oh my gosh, you are not unemployed. You are still sane, I guess, because this is insane. This absolutely is insane. Literally, though, if I was literally doing that, where I'm live. In order to continue watching me, you'd have to pay me like a quarter or let's say 25 rupees every minute. You have to pay me 25 rupees every minute. The 2 rupees. Oh, yeah, well, that sounds good. 2 rupees every minute in order to continue watching. There's the ad revenue on top. And if I had a sponsor, I could use a sponsor. Just imagine I could be unemployed. I literally could be unemployed. The best I can do is 1 rupee per minute. Just You know, it's okay to be honest and say 1 rupee per hour. That is fine. That is fine. I'll take it. I'll take it. But yeah, I could probably be unemployed if that was the case. And these are complete genres. You're literally just selling an episode, and they're paying every minute for each minute of the episode. That's crazy. That is crazy. What kind of reality have we fallen into? What kind of reality?
$7 billion US. Analysts predict that this format could rival or even surpass long-form streaming within a few years in China. So Korean producers are watching all of this unfold and asking themselves, wait, should we be doing this too?
No.
Of course, the Korean market is much smaller and the production culture is very different. But once they saw how much money Chinese companies were making, the incentive calculation changed. A traditional 16-episode K-drama might take 1 or 2 years to develop, film, and release, and requires big stars, massive crews, and enormous overhead. Meanwhile, a microdrama can be written, shot, and monetized in as little as 1 to 3 weeks, using unknown actors and a team of maybe 5-10 people. And unlike Netflix originals, where producers surrender all IP and get paid only once, microdramas let producers keep ownership, earning recurring daily revenue from microtransactions, and take almost no financial risk. In other words, microdramas could offer them something Netflix never gave them: speed, control, and the possibility of real upside. So Korean companies like Top Reels launched in 2024, mimicking the Chinese model almost exactly. Roughly 2-minute vertical episodes, 100-episode runs, and small per-episode payments. Even Korean streaming platforms like Watcha are commissioning short-form originals, testing whether Korean emotional storytelling can work in compressed formats. So far, these are still small-scale experiments. There's no public data yet showing massive user adoption or breakout hits the way China has. But the infrastructure is being built and content is being tested. But here is the uncomfortable truth. Microdramas aren't just a different format. They're a completely different breed built around dopamine, instant gratification, constant cliffhangers, and algorithmic performance. And increasingly, the entire pipelines from concept to editing are being accelerated.
That's just like, I'm gonna create a short where I'm throwing a knife, or my wife runs into me while I'm in the kitchen. I was cutting. The knife goes up in the air, you know, spinning, twirling. I tumble on the ground. My wife falls behind me. And then it ends, the episode ends, the short ends with the knife flipping. No, that would be how the next episode ends. And then the next, that you scroll, you pay another bit to find out, well, what happened with that knife? It starts with it falling. You see me on the ground squirming, looking up, like trying to crawl away. You see my wife literally trying to crawl away the other direction. The knife, cut back to the knife as it's falling down. You cut to the wall. I learned cinematography, so all these scenes are in my head already. You cut to the wall. You hear a scream and a yell. Scream from my wife, a yell from me, because I'm a man and I wouldn't squeal. You hear us both crying in pain. You hear the sound of a knife cutting flesh. You see a blood spatter against that wall. And then you have to pay again to see. Yeah, and then it turns out to be like a tomato or a ketchup bottle for the next thing. Oh, thank you for the next 40 minutes. Thank you. That works. But yeah, and then it's like a ketchup bottle or tomato that I was using while I was cooking. That was left out of frame that nobody saw. And the shouting was me and my wife tumbling on each other. And turns out that my toe was broken and she's completely in pain that she broke my toe. It's like this stuff could continue on and on and on. And you ended on gags or something that could end up turning into a gag that turns into another freaking episode. It's ridiculous. And I thought of that thing in a matter of seconds. You don't need weeks to create a short little a simple genre. And the episode will probably be cooking in the kitchen with my wife. That would be the episode. You pay for probably 24 minutes and it would be 24 episodes for something incredibly stupid. But people do that. Because it's the instant gratification. It's all that stuff. It's all that stuff. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan because again, you get the instant dopamine from the feeling, the good feeling, the joy, whatever that shorts give you, something to laugh at, something to feel good about, some kind of quick nonsense.
Or even partially automated by AI tools. Chinese studios are already using AI-assisted scripting and AI-generated scenes to speed up production and cut costs. And the thing about AI-generated content is this: if it's just good enough, people still watch. Because in short form, viewers don't care how well it was made. They'll just scroll to the next clip anyway. And there's another fear quietly spreading through the Korean industry. What if microdramas become the new talent pipeline? In China, that's already happening. Unknown actors from 60-second dramas suddenly become stars. Microdrama writers get recruited into longer shows. Directors who star in vertical content get hired by major studios. And as that ecosystem grows, the traditional creative class, I'm talking about actors, writers, and directors, begins to lose market share to a faster, cheaper, algorithm-driven system. Korean producers worry that if microdrama revenue keeps rising while long-form budgets stagnate, the next generation of talent will flow towards short-form instead. And that would mean fewer original long-form scripts and...
That's what I was talking about. Remember I told you there's TikTok shows and everything where they're that they'll make like a Wattpad novel story about some stupid school dramas and everything. And then those kids would usually be the people who use TikToks, you know, the younger people with more followers, and they'd be recruited in those shows, the TikTok shows, which are like the vertical shows. And based on how much popularity that thing got, they'll be recruited further into like the mainstream media.
Yeah.
Well,
you'd mentioned that. I'm just like, I've never seen them. I've never heard of them.
Like they're talking about.
It is because you're creating something that people want to see.
And the people that they hired, they're probably people who are like chronically online and they post and repost.
They are the chronically online people.
Yeah.
Like I've always said, if you want to do something, you like. So if you want to be an actor, if you want to be a director, if you want to be a cinematographer, it is I guess. Director and cinematographer. If you want to be an actor, there has never been an easier time than now.
Yeah, you literally have to go in front of the camera and record yourself and post it online.
Yeah, you just literally need to actively do it. But that's the problem, is a lot of people don't do it. And especially if vertical videos are becoming the norm, why isn't that people who want to be actors just do the vertical format, commit to it?
They do. Like even in India,
well,
a lot of the younger generation actors, they were all doing TikToks and, you know, makeup videos and modeling videos and short form content, and now they're like big celebrity level YouTube people.
I'm talking about like acting. I mean, you can literally create scenes and do everything yourself, act out an entire movie.
People that get shorter roles in mainstream media
but
now.
That's the thing. I never thought people would actually be interested in that sort of thing, but I never realized how rotten society has gotten, how their brains have literally turned into mush. And it sounds like my wife's brain is kind of turned into that when it comes to streaming.
Well, it was the COVID that did everything like that.
I didn't suffer. I was working a job during COVID.
Well,
and
if
still
you
doing
scroll
YouTube.
on YouTube, you get those Chinese drama stuff, but they're usually like the ad, and they're like, download this app to see what happens next. I never do that, but I also watch what that short video is about, and I just guessed by myself, because the recent one I saw was a lady. She was like walking and she bumps into some guy, and then it's like her boyfriend from 5 years ago, and then there's a little girl that comes out, and the guy realizes that she's 5 years old and that she's his daughter, because they have the same mark on their neck. And then the guy is all confused, like she kept it from him. But then his mother had paid the girl because he had a career in football, and she didn't want him to sacrifice his career for the girl and the baby. So, yeah. Well, that's all I watched. I don't know what happens next.
Yeah, you don't need to know what happens next. That kind of stuff is just ridiculous. It's really ridiculous. I can't understand. I guess I don't see it, but I can understand it, I guess is the correct way to say it, because I would never do something like that. I enjoy being entertained. I like to actually invest my time in a series, invest my time in a movie. People investing their time on just doom scrolling and paying to doom scroll is just insane. Is absolutely insane to me. I don't see it. I don't see it.
Fewer new genres explored. That's the real cultural erosion. So the big question isn't whether Korea can make microdramas. They can, and they will try. But what's at stake here is whether doing so will erode the very thing that made K-drama special in the first place. The slow burn attachment, the emotional payoff, the 16-hour investment that makes you feel like you've lived with the character. Now, can you see how the very system that made K-drama a global phenomenon is now under siege from every direction? And the people who actually create these stories, the writers, the crews, the smaller producers, are still trapped in the same work-for-hire model they've always been in, except now the stakes are higher, the budgets are bigger, the timelines are shorter, and the future is more uncertain than ever. But hey, I can also imagine a world where Korea combines the best of both. Maybe that's a solution, kind of like two-track model. Use short form as a rapid testing ground for new ideas and characters, validate them early, and then expand the proven concepts into long form with real emotional depth. That could potentially give creators enough leverage to negotiate even revenue share or profit participation, because they wouldn't just be pitching a story, they would already own the audience. But whichever direction they choose, the Korean drama industry will have to make a very long-term decision if it wants to preserve.
Trends change, people as well. People were excited for AI content. I don't know about that. Everyone hated AI. I mean, I'm still in favor of people utilizing it as a tool, but that's kind of where I draw the line. Now they search for genuine human creators for entertainment. Yeah, because people want to support someone that's real. Like my wife with her drawing, she was like, oh, I out of nowhere got all these subscribers. Well, it's like, yeah, people are genuinely looking for real artists and not just the AI slop. Not just the AI slop, because there's a lot of AI slop channels out there now. And I don't mind those people who utilize AI as like a tool for helping them animate, for helping them get visuals. Because for me, I'm not an artist. I'm not a great animator, and I wouldn't want to waste my time in animating. But I am I am a writer, but I would utilize AI to create my characters, to create the animations, to create everything. And then I'd be the editor to make sure it was edited correctly so my story came out the way I had envisioned it. That's just how I would utilize AI. I don't utilize AI. I'd need to buy more RAM in order to do that. Of course, I wasn't going to utilize AI to begin with. Maybe at some point. But that's the thing. That's the thing. It's just like it's a tool. It's a tool. And but people should be encouraged to use it. People shouldn't literally just create an AI prompt and upload that prompt. I don't think that should be something people do and make a profit off of. That's just ridiculous.
The magic of the long-form storytelling formula it has spent roughly 3 decades perfecting. If you found this video insightful, make sure to subscribe to Asian Boss and share it with your friends.
Always at the very end.
Who loves K-drama.
Yeah. But I enjoyed that. Very, very insightful, very in-depth. Because, again, I enjoy the long-form content. I enjoy something that has heart and ambition put into it. I enjoy things that people have taken their time to create. The doom scrolling, I will never understand it. I didn't understand that trend when it happened in Vines. I could never understand Vines. I could never understand like the Instagram. I could never understand Snapchat. Could never understand even X to this day. I just don't understand the interest in scrolling and just seeing utter nonsense. I've never understood that. It's always been alien to me. But for some reason, that's the next generation. The next generation absolutely love to watch the nonsense. They love to watch the doom scrolling. They love to watch all that stuff. Because that's just what's enjoyable for them. That's just what's enjoyable for them. And I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't like that immediate gratification nonsense. I don't.
You guys get a video? It's so bad.
And don't forget to like and subscribe.
Why is like that?